And now we have Bailey Frumen, psychotherapist, coach, author, and founder of Mindrise, who's going to talk about navigating stress and preventing burnout. Oh, help me with this, Bailey, please.
Hi, everyone. And thank you, of course, to NJBIA for having me. And thank you for our first two speakers, Tracy and Nancy, because they laid out the landscape for us, right? So here I am. I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to encourage you, if you've got yourself busy doing 87 other things as you're doing this presentation, I'm going to encourage you to hop in the chat for this one, because this is one of those conversations that we're about to have that you've either been having in the back of your mind, or hopefully this is one that's going to wake you up. And the reason I say that in the most loving way possible is that many of us are on autopilot. That's the thing about burnout. Burnout can often have us with this like low grade depression. So I want to talk about that. And I want to kind of just take the Band-Aid off today for us, because while we do understand the landscape that Nancy and Tracy have shared with us for today, and we know because we've been living it for 3 years, we still have to acknowledge that we're not alone, right? There's been so many changes. So some interesting numbers, because I'm a numbers girl. I'm a little bit of a geek. As Michelle said, I am a psychotherapist. I'm a coach. I own a coaching company called Mindrise. And we work with leaders and entrepreneurs on really getting out of their own way, mastering their mindset, and building teams together. So Gallup poll. All right, you ready for these numbers? And feel free to write them down. Gallup poll says 60% of people report being detached at work, right? This is interesting. One could say, oh, that's because we're out of the office. Another could say that that's because I'm just dead behind the eyes from being in front of a screen all the time. Okay, some more numbers. Did you know that of the people who were polled by Gallup, 50% report being chronically stressed, like wake up to go to sleep type of stress. And almost 20% of people go as far as to saying that they're absolutely miserable in their career. I find that these numbers are really interesting and probably smaller than some of the conversations that we navigate either with colleagues or even within ourselves, our partners. There's a lot of stress going on, right? So I want you to picture what our environments have shifted and changed to. And one would say that, hey, it's been 3 years, just get used to it by now. But what we have to take into account, as Tracy and Nancy had both shared, is that we weren't necessarily prepared for this change. We weren't necessarily prepared for the multiple hats that we would have to wear. So for today, for our discussion, I really want to focus on 3 things, right? First, and I'm going to drop it in our chat, I think I can do that. I have a burnout quiz for you. And the reason that I like to just do a burnout quiz is because I think that what we need is we need a baseline. My team and I put a ton of research into this very simple burnout quiz, because I think that, as I mentioned from the very beginning, we have this low grade buzz of stress, which can often be that low grade depression, or it can be low grade anxiety. And we're going to hear from other speakers throughout the day talking about mental health impact, especially in our workplace. But you and I know that it's so much more than that. Right? It goes beyond just the workplace, whether that workplace is virtual or that workplace is where we have to, schlep into the city or, organize our schedules so that the kids are taken care of for pickup, or that this one's got this activity, or now we've got this change with this business trip. There are a lot of moving parts in our life. So I want to hear from you in our chat. I want to hear from you. Like, what does burnout actually look like for you? And while you guys are hopping in the chat, I'm also going to hop in the chat. And I don't know if I could share this with you, or I'm just going to pop it in the chat and maybe Kate can blast it out. This is the burnout quiz. I like this burnout quiz. I'm tossing it to you because I think that it's important that we start with a baseline. Where am I at when it comes to burnout? Right? Am I at a high level burnout? Am I at a moderate level burnout? Do I have a low level of burnout? Where are you when it comes to burnout? So let's start with that. The other two things that we're going to do in my TED Talk here today, in our few minutes together, is we're going to identify if we are actually in burnout. And then here's my favorite part, guys, what to do about it, right? What to do about burnout. Because yes, we can understand the landscape of our environment, whether that is our own backyard or the global impact as a whole. And I don't know about you, but day to day, the only person I have to navigate and hear their voice every single day is myself. And if my internal voice is feeling negative or feeling exhausted, right, it's going to be really hard for me to do the things that I have to do. And for so many of us, that's wearing multiple hats. That is being a parent, being a caregiver, being a partner. For me at my company, it's not only me working with clients, but it's also me directing my team. And I'm going here and I'm going there. And when we are burnt out, it's really hard to pour from an empty cup. It just is. So I'm curious for you. And again, I don't know if you guys can hop in the chat or the Q&A, feel free if you've got questions, but I want to create a conversation here. What are the qualities of burnout, right? So if we're starting with our baseline of understanding whether or not we're burnt out, what are some of those qualities of burnout? And again, feel free to jump into the chat, or if you are at your desk, just write down, what are some of my qualities of burnout? How do you know that you're burnt out? And let me give you a little spectrum, okay? Oh, Kate's hopping in the chat. She said, feel free to reply here. Yes, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna open up my chat so I could see. I love it. I love it. We're on it. Okay. Lynn saying mental fatigue. Betty saying always tired. Irritation. Grace. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Anybody find that like little edge? That little edge is not going to take much to put you over, right? Can't focus. Sometimes snapping. Yep. Hard to smile, right? Hard to smile, or it just feels like, hi, everyone. Yep. I'm dying inside. I'm dead behind the eyes. Yep. I'm just making it through. And what we have to understand is that for so long, exhausted, forgetting details, ooh, that is a really, really important one. Forgetting details, a great quality of burnout. And I say great loosely, right? That's one of those things. Right? Anybody reading these things, either in the chat or as I'm saying them out loud and saying, oh, yeah, me too. Right? Some of our qualities of burnout can be impacting our sleep. That could be anything from sleeping too much or sleeping too little. Snapping, irritation, finding it hard to smile, being exhausted, brain fog, forgetting our details, always fatigued. Anybody experience decision fatigue? So much so that when it comes time for dinner, you're like, that's a decision I can't even make at this point in time, right? And because we've been experiencing burnout for so long, it's almost like it's an outfit that we're wearing. It's almost something that we've put on and we just haven't taken off, right? We just haven't. It remains this way. Absolutely. Michelle's popping in here. Agree all around. Yeah, Michelle, absolutely. Dazed snacking. Anybody emotional eaters? Yeah, absolutely. It happens for us, especially when your office is right next to the kitchen. Makes it very easy. What are some of the other qualities of burnout, and where, next question, guys, where does it show up? Where does burnout show up for you? Work, right? Show up at work? Home? Or does home feel like a nice oasis from it all? In some ways, that oasis that we might have had, and I'll use that term loosely, everybody gets to choose their own definition, but that oasis that we had pre-pandemic has now become the place, as we remember, where we were educating and we were working and we were, mopping the floors and all the things at once. I remember in the very, very beginning of the pandemic, and I would get all dressed up for work and I would get on my computer. And inevitably, I had a 5-year-old at the very beginning of pandemic. You can only imagine what kindergarten on an iPad was like. And she's running around and I'm like, shh. It got to such a point where she was popping on, hi, everybody. We got to a point where we tried to figure out what was going to be our new normal, right? Because we were experiencing our burnout globally, at home, at work. Burnout can show up in our relationships. Anybody find that their burnout shows up in the way that they are taking care of themselves? Right? Does burnout show up in not working out? Does burnout even show on the other spectrum of working out too much? We all have different experiences. So when we start to break down burnout, right, because in many ways it's something that's wrapped itself around us, we have to identify first, right? Because I promise you guys, I've been doing this work for nearly 20 years when it comes to understanding how people are wired and helping them to make changes. You cannot change anything if you don't have awareness first. Everybody comes in and they're like, where's the magic wand? I want to change this, right? But the truth is that unless we're aware of it and we start to extract ourselves from it, there's absolutely no way that we can change it. So first is that awareness. What are the qualities of burnout? Second, where is it showing up for me, right? We've got some things popping in the comments, right? Not working out, forgetting ourselves, poor self-care. Yeah, just not actually engaging. That's in many ways. It's not only where it shows up, but also how does it show up? As we were talking earlier, it can show up in forgetting some details. It could show up in really not even being able to engage socially. I've talked to lots of clients that they are on Zoom so often that they reach a maximum capacity for how much that they can take in terms of information all day long, that they then have trouble having relationships in real life, right? It's not so much the tech barrier. It's more or less the fact that they're at their bandwidth. And you know what I like to call that? I like to call that our smoke alarms. So write that one down. What are my smoke alarms? What are my smoke alarms? So before the house is absolutely ablaze, right? And the house being you, what are your smoke alarms? Maybe that is that mindless snacking. Maybe that is that irritability that's snapping. Maybe that is the like brain fog, detail forgetting, constant fatigue. What are your smoke alarms? We have to, again, come to that place of awareness, because when my smoke alarms start to go off, they give me an indication that I'm losing my bandwidth, which means this is going to, and as you guys know, and many leaders, even many people within the organization, productivity, wrong, right? Efficiency, wrong, motivation, wrong. And why is that? Why is that? Because we are stretched so thin, because we've been ignoring ourselves. We've been ignoring those signals that we have that are going off for us, but we are so artfully trying to shove them in the closet, right? So the question is, I know, and I'm looking at the time, I've got, I think 2 minutes left. All right, guys, my question for you is, what do we want instead? What do we want instead, right? Because we said we had to be aware. We had to identify the qualities. We need to know where it's showing up, how it's showing up. Okay, well then give me the magic wand version. What do you guys want instead? How do you want to feel instead of being burnt out? Feel free to throw that in the chat. Oh yeah, I love this. Another, oh yeah, one of the things we do is this scroll, scroll, scroll. It's actually one of the worst things that we can do for ourselves. And the reason for that is because we're getting those dopamine and serotonin hits from the things visually that we like. Whereas that's happening almost like being at a slot machine. So it's actually really not helpful, even though we think that that's helping us to numb out. All right, what do we want instead, guys? Restful night's sleep. Do we want support? Yeah. Oh, now it's going. Here goes the chat. All right. So feel calm. Anybody feel that way? The ability to feel calm, to be content. So just not constantly stressed, right? We're not even setting the bar of like, I want to feel so relaxed. No, I just want to not feel constantly stressed, right? To just the time to not think about all the bad stuff and remember the good stuff. Yeah, coming back to that place of gratitude. So here's the thing, as I wrap up with you guys today. Again, take the burnout quiz, because we've got to start with a baseline if you want to make any changes. That's what you have to do. It's in the chat. I know Kate will post it again. The next thing that you need to do is you need to identify, right? Because we said we're walking away from this conversation with our next steps. Identify what's going on for you. Identify those smoke alarms. Make sure that you're clear about what you want instead, right? We have to know what bumpers that we need to put in place, what supports that we need to put in place, and then to get yourself a +1 in your corner, whether that's somebody at home, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach. the only way to change something is to do something different. So I'm here. I see you. Burnout is real. It's happening at work. It's happening at home. It's happening in our relationships. It's happening with our kids. It's happening globally. And we're never going to get off the merry-go-round unless we raise our hand and we say, I'm ready to get off. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you.
Thanks, Bailey. Absolutely, that whole thing about self-awareness is just so incredibly important. It's crazy. In fact, and sometimes we can frighten ourselves when we have that, that sudden awareness of what's going on in our life. The opportunity to stay focused is always a challenge for many of us. And I just think there's so many exacerbating factors going on in society today. I wake up every day and it's like, oh, I think it's the society. We've hit our max at this point. It's like, what else can we throw on the society at any point in time? And then voila, there's something new that day. I'm like, wow, really? Where'd that come from? So really enlightening. I love the burnout quiz. I love the whole idea of challenging ourselves on what's affecting and impacting and taking action. I'm going to repeat that, everyone, taking action, right? Because that's what it's all about. So Bailey, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us this morning. We so greatly appreciate it.